Meredith Gorman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
We are back with UFC Vegas 111 Brown versus Bonfim fight breakdowns and free picks. Back at the Apex, guys. We missed last week. First card we missed in a while. I was feeling ill. Actually, just got my wisdom tooth removed just today. So I'm hanging in there. It's only one, so I was able to do this podcast for you guys. And everyone's a fan of the Apex fights cards much. Sometimes you do get some good fights. But yeah, last week we didn't miss a ton. Besides the betting scandal, which we will talk about. We are going to talk about the betting scandal here, guys. But yeah, a couple of reasons on the Apex. You know, the smaller cage, I never understood it, right? Like, picture like playing on a smaller NBA court or a smaller NHL rink. You know, this favors some certain fighters, right? So I never understood the smaller cage aspect. Can't you fit a normal size cage in there? That's something that always mind-boggled me, why I didn't like the Apex. I don't mind the intimate, you know, hearing the coaches, limited fans. It's not really that much. It's more the cage for me personally. Hats off to Steve Garcia. Big win there. I was on his side, but I had the over 1.5, so we did split there. Onama's never been finished, right? Now you go back and think, finish in the first round. Isaac Bulgarian, which we'll be talking about shortly, was the main focus in this fight. Both those guys fight in the same team. Okay, guys? Right? The factory out in Denver. So that's interesting because one, Onama just looked like he wasn't throwing. He was just getting hit. So there's a lot of people are talking about the Isaac Bulgarian fight. I get it. That's the main issue. I do believe he was in on it. But the other one that no one's talking about is the main event. Right? Onama's never been finished, guys. That's why I had the over 1.5. I did think Garcia would win the fight, but not that quickly. So that's another thing they have to look at, right? So before we get into the betting scandal here, systemsportscapping.com or link.me/systemcapping. Currently handicapping UFC, NFL, NHL, PGA, NBA, starting to monitor. I usually just bet the NBA playoffs. I may have a bet here and there in the NBA as well. Let's get into this betting scandal, guys. It's the story of the card, right? It wasn't a great card. This is the story of the card, of course. And we haven't seen this for a while, right? Last time, if you guys remember, James Krause, the Minner, Molina. That fight was planned, rigged, injured, whatever you want to put it. That fight was, according to Dana White, he came out, he said that's still going on. That investigation. So that's crazy, right? So here we are again. Isaac Bulgarian being investigated for fight fixing. So opened up around -250, got all the way up to -270 on some books. Hours before the fight went down to -140. And the key thing too was the first round finish. First round finish for his opponent was like +800 or something along those lines. Then it went down to like +200 or +250, something around those lines. So a lot of action was coming in on his opponent and by first round finish. And what happens? He loses in the first round. Right? This is a guy that if I had to bet the fight, I would take Bulgarian. We hear a lot of good things about him. He was 7-1. It's just not. And if you watch the fight, you could tell a little bit. Right, there's some positions that you wouldn't normally give up. He's a very good grappler. So him getting submitted in the first round just wasn't something that was supposed to happen. Even Daniel Cormier called it out. He had nothing. I don't believe he knew anything about the possible fixing before the fight. But he even called it. What is he doing? Right? So this is definitely something that I believe was a fight that was fixed. Now, Dana White said he went up. So they work with a company that monitors the betting lines. And they got an alert before the fight. Dana White apparently, or his team, went up to Isaac Bulgarian in the locker room And he goes, no, what are you talking about? I'm going to knock out this guy. And then look what happened. So wild. We haven't heard this for a while now. We have had some other fighters come out recently saying, oh yeah, I've been approached before to throw fights. Dana White's pissed about that because he wasn't told about it. So the FBI is probably going to be investigating those fights. And if you think about it too, guys, a lot of some referee stoppages that are mind-boggling, right? They're looking at referees as well. Herzog is one of them, where some of his fights in the past like 2 months, you're like, what the hell is he doing? Right? It's very easy for a ref to, let's say over 1.5, right? Let's say if in the first round, the fight's about to get stopped, but the ref just lets them fight. And then it gets over the 1.5. So refs could be just in on it, and the fighters may not know at all. Now, I don't think it happens a ton, guys. I'm not too worried because obviously it does fuck up the betting, right? I don't think it happens a ton just due to it's limited who it can happen to. So let me give you an example. They're not going after Alex Pereira, who's making millions of dollars. They're not going off the top of the top. Anyone making 100,000 or more, they're not going after them because Vince Morales said he was offered $70K to throw the fight. So no one is going to offer, you're not going to offer the big guys or even the mid-tier guys that are making pretty good money. You're going to offer these guys that are in the prelims of an Apex card, like Isaac Dalgarian. What is he making, Isaac? Probably 12-12, 15-15, 20-20 at most. So if you offer a guy 100,000 or 70,000, they're going to take it, right? Sorry, let me go back to them. A few of them would take it. A lot of people aren't going to risk it because Dalgarian's probably going to go to jail if he's found guilty. So keep that in mind. So very interesting to see how often this happens. Apparently there's other fights that are being investigated, but you got to understand, guys, most guys won't take on this risk. I say it's very small. 5% may be too high. I'm looking at maybe 1-2% of guys that would do this. Because one, the amount that you're receiving, I think the max would be 100K. The max that you're receiving, it's not worth it because you're throwing your whole life away if you get caught. Right? Dalgarian, if he is guilty, he's never fighting again. He's going to have to go work at FedEx or whatever it is. So it's very interesting. Wild story. We'll see what happens in the long run. Dana White, if you haven't go watch that interview, he kind of breaks it down and see what's going on. But yeah, I believe it's either, we saw it in the NBA too, right? I believe it's like the mob or a gambling like team of guys that bet very high, like high amounts, and they have the money to throw it, and they're approaching these guys. So interesting to see, right? Interesting to see what happens now. Obviously, I don't expect this to happen anytime soon. Obviously, the FBI is watching over the UFC hard. So this card is not going to happen, guys. So don't worry about that. I don't believe it's going to happen in the long run. Again, I usually avoid lower tier fights. I don't bet on first fight of the prelims. If I do, it's very rare, but I may have my eye on an up-and-coming fighter with a few fights only who I believe is really good and he's going to get a win. That's when I'm usually betting those type of fights. I usually stay away from early prelims, guys, and here's a reason why. Let's get right into it. Let's get right into this card. It's the card of the Bonfims, right? Both Bonfim brothers are fighting on the main card. So interesting here. We'll talk about the main event first. Better Bonfim, Gabriel Bonfim, minus 205 versus Brown, plus 154. I had Bonfim as the favorite here. I don't totally disagree with the line 2-1 favor for Bonfim. However, I do think Brown is live in this fight, and we'll talk about that. Bonfim, 3-fight win streak. After getting upset, he had his first loss against Dalby, who Dalby has at times shown up in fights and ruin guys' records. And this was about a few years ago, but he has gone on a 3-fight win streak. Just came off his biggest win against Stephen Thompson. Close fight, though. Close fight. Stephen Thompson put up a good fight. It was a split decision win for Bonfim there. Brown was on a nice 3-fight win streak before losing to Brian Battle. Really uncharacteristic loss there. Tough loss for Brown. But he is coming off a win against Dalby, funny enough. I believe Bonfim is the rightful favorite in this fight. I had it very close. I had it, minus 170 for Bonfim, so very close. I do see minus 205, like I said, but there's always I see some minus 180s out there as well. If you want to shop around, really like Bonfim in this spot here, you can get a better price than the minus 200 out there. I do believe he has the wrestling and grappling advantage here. Brown's takedown defense, decent at 73%. Not bad at all. That's going to be the tail of the tape, as you say. That's going to be how this fight plays out, right? Does Bonfim get this fight down to the ground? If this fight prolongs and goes into the third, fourth, fifth round, advantage Randy Brown. We have seen Bonfim at times get it slow down in fights. Example, the Thompson fight. Right, so if Bonfim's continuing to try to get this fight down on the ground and struggling to do so, if Brown keeps this fight standing, he's going to have a nice 6-inch reach advantage. He's going to be able to stick and move on Bonfim. He does have a striking advantage, in my opinion. Now, Bonfim has some power on the feet. I would give him that, but Brown is going to have the volume advantage. He's going to be able to stick and move better on the feet, and I do believe he could win that way. So my personal opinion, if Bonfim wins this fight, it's most likely by finish. I don't really seeing him win. I just haven't seen it from Bonfim. Like, I've seen cardio issues prior, to this 5-round main event. I'm not going to say Randy Brown. I've seen him fight 5 rounds because I haven't, but he's never had cardio issues in any of his fights. And just, you can tell by his build and the way he fights, not a wrestler, doesn't wear himself out. He just kind of dances around on the feet, guys. Uses that reach and jab. I expect this fight to go at least a few rounds, over 2.5 rounds, maybe a look here. But it is difficult to predict, right? If you're betting Bonfim, and I said, try to get the finish prop. I do believe the submission could be live. We have Bonfim with 13 submissions in his career, and Randy Brown has been submitted twice. Like I mentioned, Bonfim has the grappling advantage here. Can he get the fight down to the ground is the question. I don't know that. You don't know that. However, looking at the stats and the history, Bonfim's not some big-time wrestler. He's not a guy that gets fights down to the ground super easily. But when he gets it there, the grappling advantage is shown, and he does have a good grappling base. So if he can get it there, I expect him to have opportunities to find the submission. So if you can get a good price on the submission, that probably would be a look for me and my favorite play on a proper outcome standpoint, at least. But, if you can get Bonfim at minus 180, you want to throw him in a parlay, I wouldn't call you crazy. I don't think it's a great price, but I do believe Bonfim finds a way. Leaning Bonfim here for you guys. Brown is live, though. He's live. If he can keep it standing, keep the fight standing, prolong the fight, advantage Brown. Can he do it? We will see. Morales, minus 430 versus Matt Schnell, plus 300. Big price here. I don't agree with the price. I do think Morales wins this fight, though. I had him more, minus 250, minus 300 when I did my lines. Morales, 4-fight win streak, keep in mind. Only one of them was in the UFC, though. A couple in Cage Warriors. He did get cut from the UFC. If you guys recall, he went 1-2. They cut him. A couple tough losses, though. One of them was Figueiredo. So I do believe he is the superior fighter here. He should be able to possibly hurt Matt Schnell on the feet. We know Matt Schnell, durability concerns, right? He's finished 8 times in his career. For a flyweight, that is not good, guys, right? Difficult to finish fight. Just doesn't have a chin. He could be submitted as well. Just the price, right? The price, zero value at this price of minus 430, and I can't sit here and be confident on an outcome. Right, so if you can somehow fit Morales in a 2-fight parlay, that could be a look for you guys. But yeah, I like Morales' direction right now, right? He got cut from the UFC and went back to the drawing board and just looked great ever since he came back on that 4-fight win streak. Sometimes you need that. You need to get cut and get back into things, right? Fights with alpha male team, so great team. I expect him to get this win. Another note here, Matt Schnell, I thought he retired. He threw out his gloves last time. And now he's back, I guess, for a payday. I'm not too sure, but give me Morales here. He should get the victory. Medic minus 180 versus Salikov plus 140. Fun one here, as long as it lasts, right? 2 guys have KO histories. Fights that don't really go to decision. I think there's some value here on Salikov plus 140. Only way I could look. 3-fight win streak. For Salikov, guys. A little worried about his volume. So if he doesn't hurt or knock out Medic, he probably loses this fight, in my opinion. You don't see too many decision wins for Salikov. Could he mix in some wrestling and grappling? He would have the advantage there, possibly, but he's more of a striker, right? Let's be honest here. I could see the finish. I could see this fight finishing going under the 2.5 rounds. Fight not to go the distance. Probably have to pay up for that. Medic just never been to a decision in his career, in his entire career. What is it, 13 fights, something along those lines? But still, he's a first round type of guy. 5-minute fighter, guys. If this gets in the second or third round, big advantage for Salikov. So if Salikov can avoid the early knockout, big advantage here, and that's why I think there's value here at plus 140. Only way I could look if I had to bet this fight would be, from a side standpoint, would be Salikov plus 140. I also like the fight not to go the distance here. It should be a fun one, though, while it lasts. Padilla plus 162 versus Bonfim, minus 210. This is the other Bonfim fight. They are priced fairly similar in the market. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, the Bonfim parlay, right? The two brothers on the parlay. But hey, knowing them, I can see one of them losing. I don't expect both to lose, but I could see one of them losing. And both guys are alive, Padilla and Brown, to win these fights. Tough fights, though, for if you look at Bonfim, this is the lesser of the Bonfims, but he's fought some tough guys and lost those tough fights, right? Saint Denis, very tough fight. We know how tough he is. He won versus Pichel, and then he lost in his return against Sadikov. So, respectable losses, you could say. Padilla, 3-0 in the UFC. Low-level wins, though. You got to stress that. This will be his toughest test yet. So I don't know really how good Padilla is. I thought that Jai Herbert fight that he won, that was his best win so far. It was close. And, some people gave it to Herbert. So take that with what you will. I think, Bonfim fought Herbert. Bonfim would win the fight fairly easily. So that's why I'm going to lean Bonfim here. He will have a slight volume advantage on the feet. You can maybe say Padilla will have a slight wrestling advantage, but I don't think it's enough to threat Bonfim. Bonfim can grapple if needed. Not a fight I'll be betting or getting involved in, even though I'm going to lean Bonfim, and I'm going to say the Bonfim parlay has a chance to come through, but wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys lose. You got to also factor in, both these guys knew they're going to be on the same card for a while. Some extra motivation for the fighters here. Fighting pretty much almost back to back to each other on the main card. You gotta think, that fires them up a little extra here. Very winnable fights for both of them, guys. Fun one here. Last one we'll talk about as well. And it is Ricky Simón, minus 180 versus Barcelos, plus 140. Love this fight. It's not an easy fight to handicap. I had this fight more to pick up. So again, value on Barcelos. I see a lot of value on this card, on some underdogs. So Apex underdogs always make sense to me. Now, I could see how Simon wins this fight. Chain wrestling, controlling, some on the ground. He wins a boring fight, right? Barcelo I have as the better striker, better jiu-jitsu fighter. However, why I like Barcelos here and why I think there's value at plus 140. Again, this could go either way, guys, but I'm just talking from a value standpoint. I think the line's off here. I could see Barcelos keeping this fight standing. He has very good takedown defense, guys. All the fights that he's been in, 38 years old, he's been in a lot of fights. He has 85% takedown defense. Right? That's how Ricky Simón wants to win this fight. Get the fight down to the ground. 3-round kickboxing fight, Barcelos wins. And, if Ricky Simón gets the fight down to the ground, Barcelos is live also for some submission attempts on the ground. He's not going to just lay there, in my opinion. Barcelos, nice 3-fight win streak as well. Right, guys? Cody Garbrandt, Talbot, he ruined his career. Right? Talbot was the new guy, the big guy moving up, and he was able to shut that down. So yeah, only way I can look there would be Barcelos at plus 140. I think there's value there. Again, though, would I be surprised if Simón wins? No, he's a favorite. He has a path to win the fight. I just don't believe he can keep Barcelos down for him to win this fight. So yeah, close fight. Again, Marcel's a little older now. However, there's that 3-fight win streak. So I don't think he's done. So I believe there's value there. Not a fight as of right now I'll be getting into. If I do bet, it'll be a smaller unit on Barcelos. That will do it, guys. That will do it. We'll be back next week. Pay-per-view card's coming around the corner. A big one. Can't wait to break that one down. And a little different one. I break some news, right? I had a few guys that listen to the podcast before. Hey, you should talk some news. And, I do if something comes up, especially this betting scandal, I'll try to throw that more into the podcast in the future. Like I always say, guys, bet smart and know your limits. Enjoy this card.